Hey everybody, welcome to Lamb Living. My name is Holly Lamb, and it's the fall here in South Georgia, and my husband and I love our blow-ups. So we got down the fall blow-ups, and that's our big 9-foot Sam Scarecrow. This little guy we got down at Ollie's. We were down at Ollie's visiting in Waycross, and not Waycross, we went to St. Mary's, and that's where we got that one. And then my sister got me this Harry Potter a couple years ago. She and I both are big Harry Potter fans and avid book readers. And then the little sausage dog kind of is in Dolly's honor. But this little spooky tree at the corner, this is my favorite. And these sweet little smiling pumpkins and jack-o'-lanterns and those ghosts are kind of the, those little ghosts smiling are the inspiration for my DIYs today. I'm going to do lots of little ghostly DIYs and projects, and we're going to start off with this garland from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to be kind of taking some coffee and making them not quite white. I want them to be more the color of these shells. I found this bag of shells that already had holes drilled into them for $3. It was a great buy. And I noticed there were some other beads and things in there. I did keep those beads, and I sorted it all out because I just, that's the way I work. I like to know what I've got. I found a couple of these little charms within the bunch. You can see somebody had tried to make some charms and took them apart. But I'm going to enjoy stringing those. And then I'm going to use some instant coffee, and I do this a lot to, kind of grubby things up just a little bit. It doesn't matter that it's decaf instant coffee. That's just what we had in the pantry. If my husband wants coffee in the evening, then he's going to want decaf. So we're going to just kind of make these ghosts a little more shell color instead of just the bright white. And it took all of, 30 seconds to be in this coffee mixture. They just sopped it right up. And then I'm going to kind of get a little bit out of this. I don't want them quite that dark. So I'm going to lay them out there. But then I'm going to take some paper towels that I have nearby, and I'm just going to sop it right out of there and kind of absorb the coffee into those paper towels, which I will be using in a later project in this video. So we're going to keep those and let those paper towels kind of dry and do what they're going to do. And then I'm going to let the ghosts dry and do what they're going to do. So I'm getting as much coffee as I can. Cute. I'm also going to wipe underneath where a lot of the coffee was kind of collecting. And then I'll flip them halfway through. Yeah, there's some of the wet paper towels. I'm just flipping these over so they'll dry evenly as I can on both sides. And we're going to string them just simply with these shells. They're a whole lot more the color of the shells. And now I'm going to lay out these wet paper towels and let them do what they're going to do. And we'll use those on my day 3 of the Holly Dolly birthday experience. Last month I had my birthday, and Kevin gave me something for 5 days before my birthday. And he wrote a Dollyism on each one. He says, honey, Dolly don't run from nothing in heels. And you sure ain't running from no ghosts. Cancer picked the wrong gal to mess with, because I don't even know what the rest of it says. I get choked up when I read it because it's so sweet. And so anyway, I'm going to use these 2-ply paper towels. I had to pull them apart because, I only wanted to use one layer. And I'm going to put it right over those sweet little faces on these ghost stacks. I told myself, because those stacks all went up to $7, that I wasn't buying any more. I had a couple of pumpkin stacks left over from last year when I paid $5. And I was just going to use those this fall. And but he knew that I love that little ghost stack, so he got it for me for my birthday. And so I was very happy to see that little guy on the counter with my Dollyism. I'll share a few more of the Dollyisms later. If you haven't seen the videos before this, I was able to, because I have cancer, or I'm fighting cancer, I was able to meet Dolly Parton, the real Dolly Parton, in March, and we got to go up to Dollywood and meet her at the Dreammore Resort, and that was such an amazing moment. And so when we found our sweet little Dolly Parton, our little rescue dog from the Humane Society, they had named her Dolly. And so we just couldn't resist. And I've got lots of video of Dolly in this video so you can see how she's doing. Now, I was doing little pairs of these shells so they kind of went back together. And I did 6 pairs. So there's 12 shells in between each ghost. I was going to do 3 and 3 and just do 6 shells, but I ended up doing 6 pairs. And mainly it was because that one ghost has a big arm. He's an awfully cute one, so I definitely wanted to make room for him. I didn't want him to be missing out on my garland. And so I have 6 pairs in between each one. I'm using a large needle. I wouldn't call this a doll needle because doll needles are usually, I don't know, plastic. But I certainly would use it on, big projects. But I had to have an actual needle to get through some of these holes. And honestly, this needle wouldn't go through all of the holes. So, but I had plenty of, shells with the big enough holes for this needle to go through. And I just made it pretty simple. I thought on this ribbon, I thought it just looked perfect for my mantle. And I've got some command hooks on the top part of the mantle, and that's how I attach my garlands. They just stay up there, and my mantle is high enough that I can't see it. I'm 5'4", and so I'm kind of, I guess you would consider short. But my son-in-law is the only one that's tall, over 6 foot in my family, and he wouldn't care if he saw command hooks, and I just love the way that turned out. Okay, now I had a few ghosts left over. I filled that garland just as full as ghosts as I could, but I had a few left over, so I decided to go out into the yard and collect some fallen little branches, and I'm taking some bronze metallic spray paint, and I'm going to just give them a couple of coats here. I didn't mind if a little bit of the stick shone through. And then I found this necklace at the thrift store. And I'm always, picking up stuff like this and kind of putting it in my stash. But look at that. I'm not kidding. That bag is a good 4 or 5 pounds. It's a heavy, heavy necklace. And you could see that it was a necklace because it's not completely unstrung there. So I don't know how anybody in the world would wear that necklace. I can see why they gave it up. But I'm going to just use it, piece and part it, and use a few of them in some ornaments for my my branches that I'm going to put on the mantle as well. I have some thrifted wooden vases that we're going to use. One of the vases has an obvious crack, so there's nothing. I'm never going to be able to put live flowers or anything in there, but these sticks used to be live, and so now they're very shiny and pretty for bronze for fall. And that's all I'm going to do. Just tie some knots in between one of the beads, one shell. I think maybe a couple of them. I put 2 shells on. And there we go. So they're wooden. So they're not heavy, but they're not light. But I didn't want these. I knew these sticks would stick up way high, and I didn't want them to tip over. So I did put some black beans in there, and I'm just making my own funnel there. I do have a funnel, but I couldn't be bothered to get the ladder out to get it out of the top of the cabinet. So I just made my own with a piece of music that was laying around. So there we go. I'm just going to make sure that those sticks are not going to topple over. The ornaments had very little weight to it, even though those beads are heavy by themselves. They're not too bad. So I'm pretty certain that I'm not going to tip over there. And I thought those sticks made nice little, a little tree for my pseudo Halloween tree. It's not really a tree, but a nice place for the rest of those ghosts. Okay, now let's get to this little pumpkin stack. I think they're getting better at producing these. They seem to want to go together a lot better. I know it was after Christmas, I had the stackable tree, and I was making a kind of a Valentine's Day tree last January. Yes, I'm going to simply put this on with Mod Podge. I am going to do this. I'm going to split up the 2-ply paper towel, and then I'm going to put this on just willy-nilly. I am trying to keep it out of the the connection. Like I say, the connections are better and they snap together better. I cracked that tree back last January when I was trying to pop it back together. I painted it with a primer first because I wanted to paint it pink. And I wanted the paint to stick because I was using chalk paint, that ballet slipper Waverly pink. And so I don't know if that caused it or if the tree itself was just not going to go together real easy. But I pushed way too hard and I cracked it and I had to fix it with some clay, which was, pretty easy to do. So there we go. See, I'm just kind of putting it on there. I'm not even paying attention to straight lines. And I am tearing it in some places, but in some places I do have some of the straight lines because I liked the way that the coffee kind of gathered at the edges. The ghost did that as well. When it dries, the coffee wants to go to the edges like it's been baked in the oven. But I did not bake these in the oven. I don't think I'd put felt in the oven. I'll put paper in the oven if I'm watching it, but I didn't know about putting felt in the oven. I just always keep my, oven towels or my kitchen towels away from the oven. I'm kind of weird about that. But I just put this paper towel just right on top of those little ghostly eyes and mouth. And as they dried, they became a whole lot more transparent. I would say translucent. You can see the paper towel, but it's still super cute. I can't wait to show you how this looked. I just wanted to take away the plasticky look to it and give it more of a rustic feel. I've since in the last 2 years become more happy and more. I've really liked the more primitive look, and I wouldn't say I'm a full-on primitive decorator. But I certainly thought this ghost, it needed to match my little ghostly garland. And using the paper towels that I dabbed off the coffee with seemed perfect for this little cutie, this little triptych. There they go. They snap together so well. I tried to stay away from there's the little ghostly faces from the mechanism so they would snap together. And I thought about putting some things in between, I don't know, some little, yarn or something, a little wheat. I was trying to think what would go. Could I put Spanish moss? And I thought, no, I'm just leaving it. I thought they were adorable just the way they are. And I didn't want to have Spanish moss all in that one's face. And look at the little faces. They're so good. Ooh, goodness sakes. You're so scary. I love the way that little stack turned out. Just put it on a little hat box there, a little cheese box. Okay, now we're off to the Goodwill. I've always wanted to try the Halloween ghostly painting. And so when I saw this huge, big painting at our Goodwill vault here on St. Simon's, and it was $7.99, I thought, this is my project. Ooh, I'm just showing you a couple other little things I found that day. Look at those. Those are so beautiful. I love those shell mirrors. And so you'll see I styled that one, the second one that was already in my basket. That's the one I grabbed first. I styled it on my mantle. You'll be able to see it in a minute. Okay, so I gave it a quick just cleaning with some water. And then I'm going to be using these Acryology paints from the Dollar Tree. I love these acrylic paints. They have great coverage and great pigment. And so I'll have a listing of all those colors that I used. You see, I have my little palette. I got that from the Dollar Tree a few years ago, and I love to use this palette. It washes out perfectly, but it'll keep this paint nice and ready to go for a while. And I'm using a little bit different camera angle, so you're getting a little bit of my hair. I have not been using my wig lately, and so my hair is short, but still, we're using it. Now, I can tell you that's eggnog, white, and black. That was easy. Actually, the pumpkin color, what this Acryology calls pumpkin, is more of a goldenrod to me. It is not orange. It is more yellow, and kind of a dark yellow, which is a little strange, but they have several orange choices. But see how easy these little coasts went on? And honestly, these I have kind of walking up this road. And I just was enhancing this painting. This painting already had kind of a fall feel to it to me, but I wanted more color. And because we don't get a lot of color down here. If anything's going to change, we have a lot of evergreen trees with all the live oaks. So if anything's going to change, it's going to change probably the week of Thanksgiving. And we're still all green down here. And I'm very thankful for all the, evergreens and the live oaks, because they are green all year round. So you can definitely tell when things start popping back out in spring, but we keep green all year round, which kind of this painting will emulate. And so now these two ghosts were my favorite. My husband suggested that he wanted to see a couple of ghosts with actual eyes. And since I had those ghosts kind of walking up the country road there, I made these ghosts kind of hiding over here behind the trees and the bushes. And then I dabbed it off a little bit. And then I made it like they were watching those ghosts that were on the road. And I kept kind of playing with this one. I wanted it really transparent and just kind of a barely there. And I put a little bit of black and just one little eye on that one there at the tree. But I love the way the blotting it with the dry paper towel kind of made it really cool like that. And then I just kept adding things, just little bits of color, greens and yellows and oranges and browns. That seemed to brighten up this painting. It didn't need much. It was beautiful as it was. It did not have a signature on it, so I felt like I could do this to it. I love actual art, and anything that's signed and numbered I would never do this to, but this was a print, of course. And then after I'd kind of zhuzhed up all of my painting, I did want to brighten up the frame just a little bit, so I'm using my gold leaf colored rub and buff, and I'm just kind of with a tiny little brush putting it on, and then I'm buffing it down, and that will give it a nice gloss. And I'll do the outer edge, and then I'll go ahead and do that inner edge as well. And that kind of green, here comes Kevin. You can see Dolly's flipped over for some belly rubs there. Okay, and then that kind of greenish black middle section of the frame, I'm going to leave it just like that, even though it had a little bit of damage there in the corner. I am going to seal it in with some kind of what we call coffee podge, what Tracy Campbell from My Sweet Home Living would call coffee podge. And it's just Mod Podge with a little bit of the coffee mixture mixed in. So I'm using super matte because I did not want a sheen. So I just took, when a bottle gets really, really low, I'll add a little bit of that instant coffee mixture and kind of darken it. And you can see it's just got a little bit of a tinge of brown to it, but it'll dry basically clear, but it'll still have a little bit of that, dingy look to it. And there's Miss Dolly Parton. Yes, ma'am. She's a doll baby. She's just a joy. And she's always at my heels, which I love, love, love. And I love the way this turned out. We just brightened it up a little bit, and something was here. It was the 12 Days of Christmas, a big set of prints for Christmas that I left up all year round for 16 years, and it's the first time I've ever had anything different on this wall. Isn't it crazy? Look how cute those little kind of translucent ghosts turned out. I just love the way those turned out. And isn't it funny how you can have something on your walls for years and years and years, and you just don't ever see it again, and then you notice and you're like, oh, okay, I'm going to change this now. And then I also love those ghosts who are a little darker, and I just love the way that turned out. Fabulous. Now I have one more real quick DIY, and this one is just printed on cardstock. I've uploaded, or I guess downloaded, some Etsy letters. It's an alphabet set from Etsy, and I put the link down below in there. It's a Halloween set with little ghosts on it, and it's so cute. And let's see, it was $4.80, and then I was using the Istro Rights and a kind of a dark golden brown color. And I just would select them. I put them into a Google Doc, and when they popped up in the Google Doc, that's the size I kept them, so they would all be exactly the same. And then I'm using scissors from the Dollar Tree. These scissors are not special at all. They're very cute. I like them with the flowers on them. But, anyone could do this kind of fussy cutting. And it's, not using special scissors or anything. I just, did some cutting. And then I'm going to take some of the scraps from my cutting, and I'm going to put it on the back so that my letters, even though this is cardstock, I didn't want my letters, they're kind of big, so I didn't want them to wilt at all. And so I'm just putting a little bit more cardstock. I'm not trying to be real exact, but I certainly don't want it to show through on the front. So that was my only goal, is to stiffen up the cardstock a little bit and for it not to show, because you won't be able to see this the where I'm going to have it. Now I am going to put my favorite crystal glitter from Hobby Lobby on the ghost, and I'm going to use some generic school glue. There we go. You can barely see where I've added some pieces. Now this glue that I'm actually using is the Hello Hobby brand from Walmart. But I love the Jot brand as well. That was the picture I showed you there before. Just school glue, and I usually get the generic brand. And then I'm going to just put it on my little ghost and use my clear glitter. I'm not a big fan of iridescent glitter. I don't like the extra colors. When I want clear glitter, I want it clear. I don't want, shimmer and sheen and greens and whatever. And so this is the clear. Crystal is what it's called. Yeah. And then just because I'm extra, I decided I wanted the little edges to be, I don't know if you can tell, the O has already been finished. I'm working on the B now. But it's just a subtle, I held it down. I've got some kind of plastic. It's not right on my cutting board. The plastic the film is clear. And I'm just drawing right on the edges, so that you can't see any of the cardstock on the sides. And then putting a little bit on top every once in a while, give it that rustic look. And then I'm putting a little bit of the black Sharpie. This is the thin line Sharpie on the glitter above the eyes and mouth. Just as a little suggestion. We don't want it too dark. And then in my stash, I just had these big Putka pods. I believe that's what they're called. And I'm just hot gluing them to the back. So if anyone does see them, it will kind of make sense. But you can't really see them. Or I can't. And I don't think my son-in-law would care if he did see it. He's the only one tall enough to be able to see it. Okay, Miss Dolly, what do you think about our mantle? I think it looks pretty good for Halloween. I'm pretty happy with it. And I think this little boo is so cute and just the perfect finisher with just a little bit of glitz and glitter. Those ghosts look all ready for Halloween. Yes, they do. I just love how that looks. A couple of DIYs from last year. And there's my little garland. You can see how the coffee goes to the edges when you let them dry by themselves and do a slow dry, and they all had their own little personalities, like little baked cookies. And then a few more up high. And that is a recycled decoupage print that I decoupaged into there. Little stack is not so scary. There's more cute than scary, but so pretty. I love the way my mantle has turned out. And then here we are in the hallway. And I got the highest praise because my son, he was here and he came down the hallway and he told me later, he said, I really like that ghost picture you've got in the hall. And so normally he doesn't comment on my DIY, so I thought that was pretty high praise that he would like it. And so this is what Dolly does when you come toward her. She flips over for some rubbins, and so that's my sweetheart. She is dear to all of us, and we all love our little Dolly. I want to thank you so much for watching. And my scripture today is Zechariah 4:6. The Holy Ghost works not by might or power, but by His Spirit. So from the Blue House on the Corner, God bless. And I'll see you next time.